Welcome to SIGHTLINE Live, the podcast where we explore how live experiences can fuel year-round marketing. I'm your host, Marie-Elaine Lemire. Today, we're talking about turning events into 365-day content engines, and I'm excited to welcome Jennyfer Goune, Product Marketing Lead at Amazon. Jennyfer, so excited to have you with us today. Welcome to SIGHTLINE Live. Before we dive into the tough questions, I wanted to ask you, can you please share a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I currently work at Amazon Ads, where I lead the creative tech and AI product marketing team. And my team, we focus on driving awareness, consideration, and engagement for the creative tech and AI solutions at Amazon Ads. But prior to coming to Amazon, I spent nearly 20 years across ad tech, martech, and fintech, helping mid-sized brands and enterprise companies across their digital marketing strategies, email marketing, ad operations, and more. So advertising is close to my heart, and I've been in this industry for quite a bit of time.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And in your role at Amazon right now, you work closely with creative technology and AI innovation. How do you personally engage with content and events as part of that work?
That's right. So, one of the things I focus on the most is really how do brands show up for moments? I think, interestingly, in the past, many planned around campaigns or specific planning cycles, but really, I like to think of planning around moments. And we at Amazon Ads do a lot of planning around events because they're one of the few places where we can truly bring a brand story to life in real time and see interactions from customers through demos, conversations, and other types of social interactions. For me, though, what's changed the most about those moments is that those moments don't have to stay just with inside the event. Now that content shared and showcased in those moments can come out across a storyline all year long. So, in my role, I spend a lot of time thinking about how creative technology and especially AI can help brands capture these moments and then turn them into ongoing experiences for their brands.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, this is literally the core of this conversation today, and I'm so excited about it. How do we bring content on a 365-day strategy? Um, so, you've led go to market efforts for creative tech and Gen AI products. How do you think these technologies change the way brands think about producing content at scale?
Yeah, great question. In a few ways, I think for the longest time in the past, the constraint in producing content at scale was actually the production itself, where it took many months to actually shoot the content, edit the content, even source and find the right talent for the content. And now I think things are shifting where brands might have an idea for a seasonal moment or a cultural opportunity, and producing the asset now can take a shorter amount of time with Gen AI. And so with Gen AI, we can now see marketers move from an idea to producing a fully realized creative asset much faster. And internally with Amazon Ads, we saw that with a recent client named Bird Buddy, who's a global smart bird feeder brand. They used our creative agent tool to quickly launch a campaign around Father's Day, which is a micro season moment that they wouldn't have otherwise had the opportunity to take advantage of. But what enabled them to do that is using this Gen AI solution to quickly concept, storyboard, produce some variations that they can edit and refine with their agency, and then later launch during the Father's Day campaign. And this actually ended up driving really strong engagement for their brand. It brought new customers. And the biggest shift, I think, was their operating model. So our AI solutions are really changing the dynamic between how agencies can work with their clients, allowing them to take advantage of seasonal or more micro moments instead of missing them. So we're excited to really see this happening right now across our entire creative tech portfolio.
It's really impressive how much content can be created so quickly nowadays. But from your perspective, um, why is the demand for more content across more channels growing so quickly for brands today? Is it because we're able to produce more, or is it different factor?
I think it's actually driven by the way customers are consuming content. Right now, it's not a linear experience. Customers are interacting with content across streaming TV, retail media, social media, and more. And so I think the deeper shift is that audiences are no longer experiencing brands in a singular way, and they're experiencing them as ongoing relationships. So this means that now, instead of showing up in a specific channel or in a specific journey, brands need to constantly show up consistently and do pushes throughout the year, but always be producing content. So that's why scalable creative tools have become so important, because maintaining that presence requires a ton more storytelling.
It seems like expectations from the audience is always like increasing and becomes higher and higher in terms of like content that they can get from brands, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So many brands still think about events as a moment in time. How do you think about events as part of a broader content ecosystem that lasts all year?
Yeah, I think the reason for that moment in time mindset is probably even around like how most brands plan, how most brands and marketing team budget. And so it's natural to view things in that way. But for me, I like to think about these events as content engines for two reasons. One, events are the richest environment for storytelling because you can have a wide variety of experiences in one place, from product demos to speaker sessions, customer reactions, all happening at once. And so the opportunity is you can treat these moments as the beginning of a story, not the end. The second thing is when you do capture content, I think you can use that content in so many more places, so that content becomes scalable and it becomes durable, to strengthen that content ecosystem to last throughout the year or even longer if it still resonates. So we're able to stretch our budgets farther, make our plans more effective by creating this content engine that can then tell the story throughout the year.
So there's one question that I want to ask you because it makes me curious every time. We know how important it is to use the events, like the moment, to create content, and that the real opportunity is to use this content throughout the year. One thing that I'm wondering is, how do we make sure that the content stays relevant in a world where trends and conversations moves so quickly? Because there's also a cost for producing that content, even if it's easier than before.
That's right. This is a challenge that we grapple with constantly, especially given the fact that we focus on AI tools and marketing these tools. So, what we found to be effective is treating content in bite sized pieces. So, where you might shoot a lot of content in one day, and maybe traditionally you might use it for a sizzle reel. Post event to showcase, what you've captured, what you've done for anyone that wasn't able to attend or anyone who wants to see the recap. Now, you can also keep shorter clips of that same content, bite-sized bits that you can use over time. So where an aspect of the content may no longer be relevant a month after it was shot, you're still going to be able to reuse the elements of the content that are chunks that still remain durable. So we found that going in with the intent up front of having bite-sized moments ensures that we're able to shoot and capture the content in a style that we need up front, so that we're not having so much waste after the event ends.
From your experience, do you have like a certain percent, like an expectation that a certain percentage of the content won't be used? Like, are you prepared to that? Or
I wouldn't say we've gotten that mechanical about it, but it's more so ensuring that the vast majority of content is used and currently reused over time, and grabbing these short clips to do so. One example that comes to mind is a project that I recently launched with our partner, Magnet Media. which was around shooting a customer story with Bird Buddy, that global smart bird feeder brand I spoke of earlier. So we partnered with Magnet to capture their story about the success that they've had using Creative Agent and how they were able to capture this micro season moment. And then we took that story and used it to announce the launch last year of Creative Agent at our proprietary events. But beyond that, we were able to localize that same content. So we created versions to use with our global audiences as we released in those markets. We also use it across our press materials, sales enablement materials. And then, even within the events itself, we had bite sized pieces of the customer success story that we were able to work into breakout sessions or hands on keyboard sessions. So, that kind of single shoot ended up really expanding across a wide variety of channels in the end.
So, do you have any like tips or recommendation for marketers that are trying to, get more into like content repurposing when they go to event, where they should start their plan? Like, how can they plan those different like channels or the way they will use their content?
Yeah, great question. It actually really starts with the brief. So, from the moment you have the idea of the concept that you want to run and capture, you should also be thinking about the ways in which you can amplify that story. So, in the brief that we set up with Magnet, for example, we knew not only the story we wanted to land about the success our advertiser had, but we also thought ahead about all of the different ways in which we wanted to see that story come to life. We aligned with all of our internal partner teams to ensure that we can bring that story to life across the various channels. We brought them in to ensure that they were fully bought into the strategy, could weigh in on the brief. And so up front now, you have a brief that has not only your concept that you want to see come to life, but it also has all of the requirements and needs of any other partners that you're working with to ensure it goes live in those channels with very little to no friction. So I'd say getting that brief right up front is the critical piece that can ensure that you plan with this content engine mindset in mind.
So insightful. So, one of the most powerful aspects of live experiences is the audience itself. So, how can brands involve attendees in the content creation process?
Yeah, this is the fun part. There's a few different ways to do that. But I think the way we found it most effective is by ensuring that we're tailoring the content to the moment or setting that we're in. So what I mean by that is if you're in a setting or environment where, let's say it's a conference that you know there will be several different types of customers or audience members who are eager to learn, get hands-on with a product, then you can take advantage of that moment and capture reactions after they've actually had the opportunity to use it. So, in one example, we worked with Magnet again to capture our hands on demo feedback at an event last year where we were able to not only demo the tool so that customers were educated on how to use it and how to get the most out of it for their business, but then right after the session ended, captured live responses and feedback that then we later used on social media to showcase the reactions and just generate more excitement and consideration to use our product.
We know that like audience are now more and more engaged in the experience. We want to see attendees contribute to the content. It's a topic that's very trendy right now. How do you balance authenticity with brand control when attendees are contributing to the content narrative?
Yeah, this one is probably one of the top questions I get when it comes to content narration. So here, it's really about creating a framework rather than controlling every detail. Brands should definitely define the core story that they want to tell. They'll want to own ensuring that it meets brand guidelines and expectations and compliance checks, but they still need to leave room for audiences to share their own perspective and experiences. So that balance is what keeps the content authentic while still reinforcing the brand message.
Because there's always a risk, right? When we don't know how they're gonna interact with your product or your demo or any type of experience on site. But how can events help product marketing teams bring a product story to life in a way that digital channels alone can't?
I think events is really what allows people to experience a product rather than just hear about it. So, seeing the demo, interacting with a product live, hands on, even interacting with people like me, the folks behind the product who are building and telling the stories and creating the marketing strategies for that product really makes a huge difference. I think also hearing customer success stories live also makes a huge difference, because it enables folks to see from like-minded audiences that they can relate to. And then these in-person moments also enable them to ask questions, to create deeper connections than a traditional ad or digital presentation might. So these reactions can often become some of the most compelling storytelling content.
That's interesting. And I believe hearing that it's kind of part of the new way to measure the success of the success or the impact of the content or the activation. So beyond, let's say, beyond basic metrics like clicks or views, what can content reveal about audiences and engagement that brands often overlook?
I think one of the most interesting signals in my experience has been what people choose to share or react to emotionally. So thinking past the click and the view, what gets reshared. Um, in these moments, it tells you a lot about what's really resonating with your audience, because these are stories that they feel are worth expanding.
Hmm, absolutely. Looking ahead, then, how do you see the relationship between events, content, and community evolving over the next few years?
I think there's an exciting future ahead. We're moving toward a model where brands operate more like community storytellers. Events are creating moments of connection, and content is extending those moments into the digital world. Um, Community is what keeps the conversation going long after the event ends. And I think AI is also going to play a really big role here by helping brands scale and tell stories and participate in cultural moments much faster than they ever have been before.
Content is such an important piece of any activation and of events right now. Jennifer, thank you so much for all your insights today. Before we end this conversation, I want to do a fun lighting round with you. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. Just respond as quick as possible, not thinking too much. We just want to hear your personal perspective and thoughts. So I want to know your favorite type of content to consume personally.
I think creator led content. So anything that tells like an authentic story, it might be documentary style or exploratory, where someone's sharing their real experience or perspective. Something that teaches me something new is what resonates most.
Your favorite channel.
Hmm. I'd say organic channels because organic builds trust. And I find that it's most authentic, kind of using organic reach.
Are you mostly like scrolling social media or reading long form content?
Hmm. I would say scrolling social media.
That's the trend these days, right? One habit that instantly improves storytelling.
I'd say grounding the story in a customer insight. That works every time.
And what's one thing that kills good storytelling?
Lack of authenticity.
I agree totally. And one brand that inspires you when it comes to content.
There's a few, but lately I'd say Anthropic. I think they've found a really creative way to bring humor into the conversation about AI in a really thoughtful way.
I'm curious to look at it. Definitely will check it out after this conversation. If you had to describe great marketing content in 3 words, what would they be?
Authentic, relevant, and memorable.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It was such a pleasure to have you on the SIGHTLINE Live podcast.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.